Right, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a long time since I've made a video, but today I'm going to be breaking down my latest release, or at least one of the tunes from it, called Knock Knock. It's part of a 3-track release on Overclocking Records, featuring this solo track from myself, a collab with Infinal called Crossover, and then another solo track from Infinal called Mineshaft. Very happy with the release, very happy with how it's turned out, and yeah, I thought I'd talk about Knock Knock today. So this is what Knock Knock sounds like.
Knock knock. Who's there? Go fuck yourselves. Go fuck yourself.
But yeah, that's just a little clip of it. So it's quite a big project, and it's actually very different to how I would normally do my projects. If you've seen my YouTube videos before, you might recognise that I tend to use a template that I've made, but I didn't use any template for this tune. I just went in completely raw, with a fresh palette, I guess, a fresh empty canvas. But yeah, let's get into it anyway. So we'll start off with the drums, because that's always a good starting point. So this is how they sound on their own. Pretty simple. So we've got this kick drum here, just the one kick drum, which is made in Serum. So this one here, and it is a preset. Yeah, I cheated. What are you gonna do about it? That's what presets are there for. So yeah, just a sine wave, a couple of envelopes on the level and the pitch and whatnot. It's actually a pretty simple patch, no effects at all. And then that's going into its own channel, channel 11, with a bit of EQ and a bit of soft clipping. Pretty standard. Now I've got this snare, which is also from a sample pack, I believe from Harley D's Patreon. Really tight, sort of snappy snare. And there's the tiniest little bit of reverb on there, so without just a little subtle bit, and then some transient shaping to bring the attack up slightly, and the sustain down a little bit, and then some soft clipping. So yeah, that's the kick and the snare. Self-explanatory, pretty simple drum pattern as well, just a sort of 2-step. And then the double kick there, which I love, always do that. And then I've also got some ghost snares in there as well, which are here. I believe they're probably slightly pitched up. Okay, they're pitched down actually. Yeah, pitched down from the original snare, so. And they're really tight, just off the grid, ever so slightly to add a bit more groove. And then I've got a couple of hi-hats off the beat. And then these tops, which are kind of like, what are those little percussive rides? They're percussive rides, I think they're called. So they sound like this. And the kick is sidechained to them, as is the snare. So as you'll hear the kick come in, the hi-hats will duck, and that just adds a bit of extra groove. Hopefully you can hear what I'm talking about there. And then I've got a couple of open hi-hats as well, so one here. Oh. Which I believe is panned to the left. Yeah, to the left. And then I think this one here, the next one, is panned to the right. Oh no, it's not. No, normally I do that. But it is pitched up slightly. Just ever so slightly from what it was. So yeah, that little offbeat bit kind of just adds a bit more, again, just groove, because it's like you're not expecting it to be there. So even just within those drums alone, there's quite a bit of call and response, because you've got this call of the ghost snare, and then the response of the open hat, and then same here, you've got the call of the double kick, and then the response of the ghost snare. So little things like that help kind of tell a story within your tune. So later on in the track I just kind of brought in a few more hi-hats. And then some ghost snares in some slightly different spots as well. And then here at this little breakdown I just got rid of one kick. And then as you hear here, we go into some hi-hat shakers as well, which I probably use this sample on every single tune. I love it. So good. And then I think here the drums slightly change up as well, so I take every kick out of the first 2 bars. Just like that, pretty self-explanatory. And then I've got this little drum fill as well, which does sound really cool here. I don't know, something about that is just really satisfying to me. So they're the drums. They're all grouped together, so all of the tops, all the percussions are going to one bus called the tops bus. I've just got a bit of RC20 on there, which will be adding some noise, a little bit of reverb and a bit of like wobble, which just makes them sound a bit more alive. And then a de-esser, just to kind of take off the harshness, because they're a little bit harsh. A bit of EQ, a bit of compression. And I believe these compressors are where it's being sidechained. Yeah, so you can see the kick ducking down every time it hits there. So yeah, that's the drums pretty much. I think I then send the tops bus to this whole drum bus, which is just my standard kind of procedure really, just a bit of compression, limiting, saturation and whatnot. So yeah, drums are nice and simple. Moving on to the basses, so majority of these basses are my own except for possibly this one. If I want to unmute it, that is. So yeah, this come from some sample pack, I don't even know where, like a really old one I had on Loop Cloud, I think. Here goes a Monroe sample. So that just kind of goes in between here. This bass I made myself a long time ago. It's part of a really long recording that I did, all the way down here. And yeah, I've just kind of chopped little bits of that to make this. And then I've also layered it with a sub bass underneath as well. Just to give it a bit more oomph, because I believe I took the sub bass out of this sound. Yeah. Is it that one? I have no idea where that sound is going to, in all honesty. 45, so yeah, I've taken out the sub, put a bit of serum effects on there, a bit of hyper, filtering and some tube just to bring it out a bit more. And that is that bass. And then I've got this little follow bass, which again is another one of my own, which is from a really long recording which I've used over 20 times. I use this bass recording a lot. I've used it in my tune Infiltrate, I used it in classical music, I'm sure I've used it somewhere on my EP for Grid as well. But yeah, it's I think it's just some distorted sine waves with a bit of noise and some pitch bend. It's really not much to it, but yeah, that's layered up with the sub as well. And then the next bass is this little one here, which is a Break sample from, you know, Break the producer. This is how it sounds originally, but I've just kind of chopped it up to kind of make it, I don't know, suck back in almost, like it kind of takes you out and then brings you back in. So yeah, the basses all together just sound like that. So again, the call and response, so this one kind of calls. If we call this one sound A, this one sound B, this one sound C, and this one sound D, A calls and C answers, but also B calls and D answers, so I hope that makes sense, but you kind of get what I'm doing. And then there's just this little bass as well, which again is a break sample. It's like a really distorted sine wave or something. So yeah, pretty simple. And then the next two bits are quite interesting. So it's made up of two sounds. You've got this bit, which is the sub layer. Hold up, let me just see where that's going to. Pattern 30, 47. Yeah, so you hear that being pitch bent up somewhere, I don't know where, but there is a... Oh, here it is. Yeah, this little LFO is just pitching it up just ever so slightly. So again, I think this is literally just, yeah, two sine waves detuned with a bit of noise. A little bit of EQ and distortion. Very standard, simple stuff. So, but then that is layered with this little sound underneath in pattern 6, which comes from Contact. It's this preset, Alert Riser, whatever that means. Yeah, so that together sounds like this. Oh, no it doesn't. It sounds like this. Still doesn't. Here we go. I think that's just such a cool sound. So yeah, that little end bit altogether is just like...
Fuck yourself.
Oh, my CPU's struggling a little bit there. But yeah, I got this little dub sample in there as well, which I think sounds like this. That's obviously got a lot of effects on it. Oh, blimey, it has got a lot of effects. Yeah, it's got delay, shimmer, RC20, tremolator. It probably doesn't sound like that on its own normally. Yeah, so it's just a bit of extra wobbly stuff, I guess. A bit of reverb, delay, standard procedure. So that's kind of the main drop, if you like. There's a couple other variants. Like here. Mute the drums quickly.
Who's there? Go fuck yourself.
So you'll hear that bass just kind of goes down instead, which is opposite to what it did before. It went up, and it's a bit shorter as well. So yeah, it just creates a bit more variation. I've got a standard just riser here. You know, it's literally just some white noise, nothing special, and it all comes together with the little drum fill at the end and the vocal sample. So yeah, it kind of just progresses fairly similar, but with a few more variations. I just kind of move the basses around, choose some slightly different sounds, and yeah, it goes into a little breakdown here.
Yeah, we'd love to hear a joke from you.
My CPU is really struggling, but you kind of get the picture. I just take out the mid basses, keep the sub bass instead, and then it's ready for when it drops back into the next section here. You know, like I say, fairly similar to the start, but just slightly moved around a bit. So for example, this bass is a bit more off grid, so it sounds like it's sucking you in, like yeah, I can't describe it, but you know what I mean. So that's that, and then yeah, just a few more little bits here and there, variations. Which is pretty cool, and yeah, that's basically the basis on the first drop. Second drop is slightly different, still the same sounds, but just done very differently. So it kind of cuts out into a fake drop, like.
Go fuck yourself.
It's always when that contact patch comes in that my CPU starts struggling. But yeah, the bass is, like I say, fairly similar principle to the first drop, just slightly moved around and stuff. All sorts of stuff I could have done here, you know. I don't know. You know, I can sort of move them all around, make different. They don't all sound good. It's very much trial and error with this kind of process. See, that sounds kind of cool. But yeah, moving on to the intro. Fairly simple actually. So it just starts off with this little dub sound effect and some hi-hats. You know, these kind of are calling and responding as well. They sound slightly different on each 2 bars or 4 bars, whatever it is. So again, just creates a bit of variation. And then we've got this low down pad, which is, I think it's an Annex sample, possibly. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's Annex. It's just a sort of low drone, nothing too crazy going on. You could probably recreate that with some sine waves and some unison, bit of reverb and whatnot. But I just thought, why not? I may as well stick it in. This sound, not actually too sure what it is. In all honesty, I don't even know if it's used in the final. Oh yeah, it is. Again, it's just another little drone. Coming from the plugin Cube, which is one of my favourites. Really cool plugin. And that has some automation on it here on the pitch just to keep it alive. Just little subtle things like that, you know, helps add to the detail of the track if you like. And then there's this, which is the main kind of melody, if you like. I wouldn't necessarily call it a melody, but it's like a lead that people can kind of follow along to. I don't know, something about it just kind of really worked with the rest of the vibe, so I went for it. Again, it's a contact sound. It's this patch, Ethereal Earth. And there's probably loads of automations you can do. So yeah, that is pretty much the intro. It's quite straightforward. Is my PC about to crash? It stopped moving. Possibly. Oh, is it gonna crash? Come on, don't do this to me. Don't do it, come on. Play nice. I don't think it's gonna play nice. I will rejoin you shortly after this interlude. Right, we're back in action after that brief interlude. I do apologise about that. As I mentioned many times in my YouTube videos before, I need to start a GoFundMe to get me a better PC. But yeah, next in the intro I bring in this little break beat.
Oh, would you like to hear me tell a joke? Yeah.
And I actually struggled with getting that part to fit in the tune at first because the break wouldn't quite sound right. Initially I'd like taken out the low frequencies and it's just sounded a bit thin, so I kind of left some of them in instead.
Oh, would you like to hear me tell a joke?
Really cool break. It's just straight from the infamous break pack that everyone has, you know, break number 122. But yeah, that's just layered up with this riser, which I think works really well with the intro. I think it sounds really cool. It's a sample. Because it's almost got the same groove as the drum break, like. See what I mean? And there is some delay on those drums, if you can tell there. I think that gets automated up towards the end here, possibly. And I also chop the break up a little bit here. Which goes in line with the actual main drums getting quicker, so. And then here. And there is a filter sweep on there, here. So it goes up and then brings it all the way back down. I quite like doing that, it's good fun. But what else have we got? We'll see this pad that I spoke about, that also gets pitched up. So if we, God, where did that come from? There you go. Yeah, pretty standard, you know, just helps add a bit more tension along with everything else. And we bring back this other riser. And I mentioned the pitch on this cube as well. That gets brought up towards the end. Oh, it's going to crash again. Don't do this to me. Yay, it listened. It's a very subtle pitch bend, but it's just enough to make a slight difference. But yeah, then obviously, last but not least, got the vocal sample, which, if you know your films, it's from Catch Me If You Can. Brilliant film.
Oh, would you like to hear me tell a joke? Yeah. Yeah, we'd love to hear a joke from you.
It's really hard because there's music playing in the background of it, which you'll hear here.
We'd love to hear a joke from you.
But I think it kind of worked. You don't really hear it in the rest of the mix, and if you do, it just sounds kind of cool.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Go fuck yourselves.
Especially that little bit before the drop.
Fuck yourselves.
It kind of leads into the drop. I think it works quite well. But yeah, it basically goes silent right before the drop.
Who's there? Go fuck yourselves.
Except for the sample and the fill. So yeah.
Go fuck yourselves.
That's pretty much all there is to talk about in terms of sound design and structure. There's not really, like, it looks like a really complicated project, but there's not actually a huge amount going on. Really. I mean, the basses are all got reverb on them. Not too sure which reverb. That's this one. You can't even hear it on its own, but yeah, it is on there. A little bit of Pro R, preset called Bright Heavy Modulate, and that is being sent to a bus. So without, it sounds way too dry, like way too dry. And then with the reverb. Which I think you can get away with a fair amount of reverb when you split the sub and the mid, like what I've done. So that's why I've done that. And this reverb and every other bass and everything is sidechained to the kick and snare. So hopefully you'll be able to hear that here. You can just about hear where it's sidechaining. You don't want it to be too obvious, but yeah, that is again quite a complicated little mix of routing here. It's all going all over the place really, but that's getting sidechained to the tops and to the basses, just using compressors. Normally I'll use like a MIDI trigger and automate the volume for my sidechain, but yeah, like I said, with this tune I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So yeah, that is really kind of it. Like I say, there's not a whole lot of mixing done to this tune. The bass bus has a fair few effects on it. It's got some Pro MB. I used Shaperbox for the sidechaining actually, so the kick is going into Shaperbox, which again is something I never ever do, so I just thought, why not switch it up? I think that's a good thing to do sometimes. Take a step away from your normal processes and do something out of the routine, which if you're autistic like me can be really difficult, but give it a try. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is for Knock Knock. If you have any more questions about it, feel free to leave a comment, drop me a message, I'll be happy to help out. But yeah, go stream Knock Knock now. It is out on Overclocking Records on all platforms, and I hope you enjoy.